Hello everybody and welcome to the quarterly stats for the last quarter of 2024. It's been a long time coming. I've been really busy. I've been trying to get the new version of my software, Monocle, ready for the year changeover. So I've had to be spending a lot of my spare time coding, and it was a mad rush to try and get it all done by the end of the year. To replace the Python version that I've been using up until now. I wanted to make it a bit more robust, a bit more professional, so yeah, I've rewritten it all in C++, which is sort of my language of choice, and so far it's working mostly okay. There's a few bugs that I'm still trying to clean up, but that's another story anyway. Let's get on with the end of 2024 and round up the last quarter and have a look at what happened. Okay, so we generated just 770 kilowatt hours of energy in the last quarter. We imported 3,653 kilowatt hours, and we exported 993 kilowatt hours. We used a total of 3,431 kilowatt hours in those 3 months, which sounds like it's quite a lot, but you've got to remember that some of that I will then re-export from my batteries. So we didn't actually sort of use that much as such in the house. So if we had no solar or battery power, then that much energy would have cost £828. That's the sort of standard daytime rate available on Octopus. Obviously, we wouldn't actually be using that much energy if we didn't have solar and battery, so not quite an exact. Solar saved us nothing, and the reason for that is because we haven't used any of the solar ourselves, because I'm now exporting all of the solar that we generate. We are effectively making no saving by, running off our own energy, but what we do get instead is we make money from the export, which I'll get to in a second. So having the battery system and being on the Octopus Intelligent Go tariff saved us £522, or nearly £523, and that's of course because we can charge up the batteries at night from the cheap Octopus Go rate and then run the house off those during the day. That obviously saves us from buying daytime rate energy, which is more expensive. It's like 3 times more expensive. So there's a saving there, and also the battery allows us to export some energy in the evenings. Anything that we've got left over before the end of the day is up, we export to the grid for a payment. And speaking of that, the money we've earned from the FIT scheme, as well as the export payments that we've had for all the energy we've exported, has earned us £243.48, which means that the total cost to us for the 3,431 kilowatt hours of energy that we used in this quarter was £304. Thereabouts. £59.26 of that is the standing charge, which you clearly can't really do anything about, which means the average price we paid per kilowatt hour for that quarter is 8.4 pence, which is up from the previous quarter, which I think was 6 point something pence. So it's a little over the 7 pence available from the night rate, which is predominantly what we're running off of. So why is it a bit higher than that? Well, yeah, you don't get back from the batteries what you put into them, so you lose something when you're charging them up, and you lose a little bit when you're discharging them as well. So you're not going to get back 7 pence worth of energy for 7 pence that you put in. So that will obviously make it be a little bit more than 7 pence. But also, as I said at the start of the video, I've been doing a lot of work on the new version of my software Monocle, and I had to test it quite a lot of times in the middle of the day to check things were working, and this resulted in things turning on and off when they shouldn't have, or when they wouldn't have normally. So we were pulling power during the day when normally we wouldn't, and I think a combination of a lot of those incidents and a few failures in my software, the new version of software, when I was running with it for a little while to see how well it was working, meant that things didn't turn on when they shouldn't have, when they should have, and did turn off when they shouldn't have, etc., etc. So yeah, all these little bits and bobs, I think, pushed the price up a little bit. I'm hoping that now it's all stable when we get into next year. That should come down a bit again, I think, and maybe get us nearer to 7 pence, which is where I think we should be. So, as I said, the cost for all of that energy was £304.24. The FIT scheme, coupled with our exports to Octopus, gave us £243.48. So the actual cost to us for the electricity we used in that quarter was just £102.90. So that's not bad for, effectively almost 3 of the worst months of the year in terms of generation and stuff. We're not getting a lot. There were, I think there was 1 power hour in that quarter that we just had, so I got some free electricity. We'll see that in the pie chart shortly. And I think there was also one of the saving sessions that Octopus did, and during that session I exported power from my batteries, and we earned a little bit from that too, so that's included in those calculations there. So the total cost that I've actually had to shell out yet was £102.90, which is not bad for all that energy that we've used in that quarter. Let's now have a look at the pie charts, like we usually do. And the first one we come to is the pie chart that shows what we did with all of the energy that we generated in the quarter, and you can see it's entirely red. It was all exported. If you've been watching these sort of videos of mine before, you'll know that when I used to try and use as much of my solar energy as possible, then that would be mostly blue, and there'd be a small sort of 5 to 10% portion of it that got exported, but the rest of it would have been used. And now it's all exported, and that's deliberate. It makes more sense for me to sell all of the energy that I'm producing for 15 pence a kilowatt hour than to use it, because I can buy the energy that I need to run my house for 7 pence a kilowatt hour. So it makes more sense to sell the solar energy for 15 pence. We'll look at the quick pie chart that shows generation by source. And you can see that it's the usual story. The Solar X inverter, which is my biggest inverter, it's 5 kilowatt inverter, and it's got about 5.4 kilowatts of panels connected to it, is producing the bulk of the energy. The Growatt 2 kilowatt inverter is producing the next largest amount, and that is about 21% from that one, and 60% from the Solar X. The 2 kilowatt inverter, the Growatt 2 kilowatt inverter, is connected to the vertical panels that are on my south facing wall, and at this time of year I get fairly good generation from those because the sun is very close to the horizon, so it's hitting those panels at the right angle to get the best out of them. The Growatt 1 kilowatt inverter, those panels are on the south facing part of my roof, the same as in the same orientation as the Solar X ones. It's a 1 kilowatt inverter, but it's got 1.2 kilowatts of panels connected to it. And that one is generating 14% of the total. And then finally, my MPP Solar is my off-grid inverter. That's in my power shed, and that's basically used to charge up my homemade battery bank. That's made from old 18650 laptop battery packs. There's videos on my channel about the build of that if you're interested in any of that, so do check those out. And that's just got basically 1 kilowatt of panels connected to it, and that's just enough to sort of keeps those topped up a little bit, but for the most part I have to charge that from the grid every so often. It mostly is used to run the gaming parts of my household. Both my son's bedrooms, their computers run off of that off-grid circuit. Now let's have a look at the pie chart that shows the energy mix in terms of how much we paid for all the different bits of energy that we used. Obviously some of it's imported, some of it is, a small amount of it will be self-generated, etc., etc. So this pie chart shows that, and you see the bulk of it is the cheap nighttime rate from Octopus Intelligent Go. That's basically 90%, give or take, of all of our energy comes from that nighttime rate. There is a small amount of cheap rate that comes during peak times, and that's just happens if Octopus decide to charge my EV at a time that's convenient for them, that happens to be during the sort of daytime. Then the price they charge me goes down to the same as the night rate. So 5% of my energy falls into that category. So that's effectively 95% of the energy now that is all at the 7 pence a kilowatt hour price. And then we've got 3.6% was expensive grid time, daytime energy. So I think it's about 22 to 25 pence a kilowatt hour, something like that. About 3 times as expensive as the night rate, but only 3.6% of the energy is in that category. And then there was the saving sessions where they, the free energy sessions that they did, power hours. I think there was 1 or possibly 2 of those in the quarter, and made the most of those and sucked down as much energy as I could in the 1 hour, and that accounts for 1.8% of the total, and that bit was obviously completely free. And finally, let's look at the pie chart for the energy distribution. Put my teeth back in. Energy distribution, and we can see where all the energy we used went, and nearly half of it, 47%, has gone into running the Tesla. and 14% went into the leaf, and 17% went into heating the hot water using the immersions. I don't use the gas to heat my hot water, even though that would probably be cheaper. I use the immersions to do so because that way I'm not burning any gas. And a lot of the time that immersion is, that's always done at night time during the cheap rate, obviously. And occasionally I do it during the day, but in those cases it runs from the batteries. So it's either running off partially solar, or it is running off the cheap night rate as well, just via the battery. And those three represent the bulk of all of our usage. And then after that, fridge freezer is 5%. Gaming makes up 3.7%. Tumble dryer, have to use it a bit more this time of year because clothes just won't dry if you peg them out on the line. So it's about 3% on the tumble dryer. And what else have we got? 2.1% in the washing machine. And 2% or so boiling water in the kettle. And the dishwasher's just over 1%. Right, okay, now let's have a quick look at our best day. Our best day was on the 4th of October, and on that day we generated 34 kilowatt hours. Here is a picture of the graph for that day, and it was not a perfect day by any shout. It looked like it's lovely up until about 10:30 or so, and then some clouds started rolling past the sun here and there, which has dropped the output somewhat. I think if it had been a perfect day, we probably would have got closer to sort of 48 kilowatt hours or something for the day, but as it stands, not too bad. 34 kilowatt hours. And the worst day for us in that quarter was on the 23rd of November, and on that day we generated not even 1 kilowatt hour, which is pretty bad. So here's the graph for that day, and it must have been very, very grey that day. There's a small peak where we hit almost a kilowatt of generation, and that's at about 12:30, middle of the day. Must have been a slightly thinner cloud for a short time, and then it rapidly drops back down again to mostly we're getting sort of a couple of 100 watts all day long. Okay, so now let's have a look at the energy import broke down into half-hourly segments for the whole of the quarter, and you can see, as always, pretty much all of our usage is between 11:30 at night through till 5:30 the next morning. That's all the blue bars there. You'll see occasionally there'll be a big load of green bars in the middle of the day, and that is the power hour from Octopus, so I used as much as I could. And you'll also see here and there some expensive use during the day. Mostly you won't see it, but here and there it happens, and that probably was when I was testing my software, or we ran out of battery power for some reason or another, or there was, as I say, at some point, I can't remember the exact date when that was, there was the saving session from Octopus, and I exported a load of power during that 1 hour period. It would have been around sort of the peak time, so somewhere around sort of 5 to 6 o'clock in the evening. And there'll be some red bars there when that happens, but mostly that daytime period will be just empty of any usage, because we're running off the batteries during that time. Okay, quite a bit of usage around Christmas Day and Boxing Day, and probably doing a lot of cooking, and flattened the batteries with all the ovens going and the cookers and all the rest of it. So yeah, for 2 days we pretty much didn't have enough battery capacity to cover everything we were using. But there you go, that's it for the last quarter of 2024. It has been slightly more expensive than I was anticipating in terms of the average cost per unit. I thought we'd be closer to 7 than where we were, which was 8 point something. But like I say, I think it's probably going to be better next year. Things will be a bit more stable, and hopefully everything should work when it's supposed to work. And we'll get that figure back down to close to 7, if not slightly under. And in terms of the total cost, yeah, just over £100 for the quarter as a bill. That's pretty good going, isn't it? I need to add that on to the other quarters for the year, and we'll do that in the yearly roundup, which video I'll have to make soon after this one, because I need to get them out. So if you're interested to see what our total year bill was for 2024, then click that subscribe and notification button, and when that video comes out, which I really will try and get it out this week, because time's ticking on, you'll be notified when I put that one up. There are a load more videos I need to put up. I mentioned several of them at the end of the last video that I did like this for the quarter. They still need to be made. I've got footage and stuff. I just have not had time to do all the editing. It just takes so long. And I've been really busy, like I say, with trying to get my software sorted. But now we're in the new year and it's actually running now, and for the most part it's pretty stable. I do now finally have a little bit of time to devote to trying to get some more videos out. I've probably got six or so videos I think that I need to do. So yeah, stay tuned. It might be slow, but I will get them out eventually. So yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you're all having a good new year so far, and I will see you shortly, hopefully, on the next video. Cheers.